I stared at the empty desk corner where my PC had been just hours ago, the dust outline marking its absence like a crime scene. 3 years of saving tips from my barista job, countless late nights researching parts, and weeks of careful assembly, all gone without a trace. My stomach knotted as my father's words echoed in my ears. Ariana, we needed the money for something important. Important. That's what they called my sister Layla's impromptu shopping spree in preparation for her college interviews. Apparently, looking presentable was worth more than the countless hours I'd poured into building my dream machine. $3,800 worth of cutting-edge hardware that I'd meticulously selected and assembled piece by piece. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. I should probably back up and explain. I'm Ariana Patel, 17, the responsible one according to my parents. While my sister gets straight A's without trying and charms everyone she meets, I struggle with social anxiety and find my escape in game design. That PC wasn't just for gaming. It was my future. The rendering capabilities alone had taken my 3D modeling skills to new heights, and I was already earning small commissions online. Everything changed last Tuesday when I came home from my shift at the coffee shop. The moment I stepped through the front door, I felt it. That weird heaviness in the air that signals something's off. Mom was nervously arranging flowers in the living room, avoiding eye contact. Dad was nowhere to be seen. "Where's my computer?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper, as I stood in my bedroom doorway. Mom appeared behind me, her hands twisting. Together. "Honey, your father had to sell it. We needed the money urgently." "For what?" My voice cracked. The room started spinning. 3 years of saving. Every birthday check. Every extra shift. My future. Layla has her MIT interview next week, and she needed a proper wardrobe. You know how these elite schools judge appearances. We had some unexpected expenses this month with the car repairs, and your father's bonus hasn't come through yet. Her voice faded into background noise as I processed what she was saying. They'd sold my computer, my livelihood, my escape, my future career path, so my sister could buy new clothes for an interview at a school that would likely accept her. Anyway, "Did you even ask me?" I whispered, tears burning my eyes. "Well, you weren't home, and the buyer couldn't wait. It was a good offer, and we really needed the money today." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My own property, sold without my consent. The PC I'd built with my own hands, customized to my exact specifications, gone. "You had no right," I said, my voice gaining strength. "That was my property that I bought with my money. How could you?" Mom's expression hardened. "We're your parents, Ariana. Sometimes we have to make difficult decisions for the family. Layla's future is at stake here." "And what about my future?" I shot back. "That computer was for my portfolio. I have commission deadlines this week." "You can use the family laptop for now," Mom said dismissively. "It's just temporary until we can replace it. Just temporary." The family laptop could barely run Chrome without freezing, let alone the professional-grade software I needed. My clients were expecting deliverables I now had no way to create. When Dad got home, his reaction was even worse. "Ariana, you're being selfish," he said firmly. "Your sister needs to make a good impression at these interviews. This is her future we're talking about." "And what about my future?" I demanded again, tears streaming down my face. That computer wasn't a toy. It was my work tool for the career I'm building. "Game design isn't a real career," Dad scoffed. "It's a hobby. Layla is pursuing medicine. That's a real future." The words hit like a physical blow. All these years, I thought they were proud of my digital art, my growing portfolio, the small but increasing commissions I was landing. But it was all just a hobby to them. Something dispensable when my golden child sister needed new shoes. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed scrolling through my phone, looking at the renders and designs I'd created on the machine that was now gone, probably being used by some stranger who had no idea of its significance. 3 years of saving, gone in an instant, without even the courtesy of a conversation. The next morning, I found Layla in the kitchen, surrounded by shopping bags emblazoned with designer logos. She was excitedly showing Mom her new outfits. Blazers, skirts, shoes, and accessories, all carefully selected for her upcoming interviews. "Ari, look at this blazer! Isn't it perfect?" she gushed, completely oblivious to what had happened. "Mom said you wouldn't mind us using some emergency funds." Emergency funds? Is that what they told her? That I had somehow willingly contributed to her shopping spree? "That wasn't emergency funds," I said quietly. "That was my computer. They sold my computer without asking me." Layla's smile faltered. "What?" "No way." She looked at Mom, who was suddenly very interested in organizing the pantry. "Mom, is that true? You sold Ari's PC?" Mom sighed. "We needed the money right away, and it was just sitting there most of the time anyway. We'll get her another one." "Later? Just sitting there? I use it every day," I protested. "And you can't just get another one later. That was custom built with specific components I researched for months." Layla looked genuinely upset, which was something at least. "Mom, that's messed up. You know how much that computer meant to her?" "Don't you start too," Mom warned. "This family makes sacrifices for each other. That's what families do." "Funny how I'm always the one making the sacrifices," I muttered. "What was that?" Mom snapped. "Nothing." I grabbed my bag and headed for the door. I couldn't be in that house another minute. I spent the day at the library, trying to figure out how I could possibly complete my pending commissions without my equipment. I had files backed up to the cloud, but without the proper hardware, I couldn't do much with them. I was going to have to email my clients and explain the situation, possibly losing future work in the process. As I sat there, drafting apologetic emails, a notification popped up on my phone. It was from my bank app. A deposit of $200 that wasn't right. I only had about $300 in my account after spending everything on the PC. I checked the transaction details. The deposit was labeled PC sale portion from my dad's account, $200, out of $3,800. Not even a third of what my computer was worth. And they had the audacity to call this fair? I felt sick. They'd not only sold my property without permission, but had pocketed most of the money. The betrayal cut deep, deeper than I thought possible from my own family. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. When I got home that evening, I found my father in his study. I showed him my phone screen with the deposit notification. $200. My PC was worth $3,800. "Where's the rest of my money?" Dad looked uncomfortable but stood his ground. "The rest went to family expenses. This is your share." "My share? It was 100% mine. I built it with my own money." "You live in this house rent-free," Dad countered. "We pay for your food, your clothes, your phone plan. Consider the rest as payment for those expenses." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. They'd never once mentioned charging me for living expenses before. This was a convenient excuse concocted after the fact. "So you're charging me $2,600 for living expenses, retroactively, without warning?" I asked incredulously. "Is that even legal?" "Legal?" Dad's voice rose. "We're your parents, not landlords. We make decisions based on what's best for this family." "Best?" "For Layla, you mean," I corrected him. "Everything is always about what's best for her." Dad's face darkened. "That's enough, Ariana. Go to your room." I was too angry to cry anymore. As I turned to leave, I said, "You know what? Keep the money, all of it. But don't expect me to forget this." Back in my room, I stared at the empty space where my PC had been. 3 years of working weekends and holidays, skipping movies with friends, bringing lunch from home instead of buying it, all to save for something that was mine. Something no one could take away from me, or so I thought. A soft knock interrupted my thoughts. It was Layla. "Ari, can I come in?" I didn't answer, but she entered anyway, sitting tentatively on the edge of my bed. "I didn't know," she said quietly. "About the computer, I swear. Mom just said they found some extra money for my interview clothes." I looked at her, really looked at her. My perfect sister in her new designer clothes, heading to elite college. Interviews, the golden child who never had to fight for attention or respect. "Would you have let them sell it if you had known?" I asked. She hesitated just a fraction too long before answering. "No, of course not. Of course not." But I saw the truth in that hesitation. When push came to shove, Layla's needs would always come first, even in her own mind. "I have something for you," she said, reaching into her pocket. She pulled out a small flash drive. "I saved some of your files before Dad wiped the computer for the buyer. I wasn't sure which ones were important, so I just grabbed everything from your desktop and documents folder." I took the flash drive, a mix of gratitude and resentment swirling inside me. It was a thoughtful gesture, but also a painful reminder of what I'd lost. "Thanks," I said flatly. "I'm going to pay you back," Layla promised. "After I start college and get a part-time job, I'll help you buy a new computer." "In 4 years? When you graduate?" "Great. I'm trying to make this right, Ari." "You can't," I said simply. "None of you can." It wasn't just about the money or even the computer itself. It was about respect. They showed me exactly how much they value me and my future. Layla fell silent, unable to argue with that truth. That night, I made a decision. I would not let this define me or derail my plans. Somehow, I would find a way to rebuild, to start over. But one thing was certain. I would never forget the day my parents sold my dream to fund someone else's. As I drifted off to sleep, clutching the flash drive, like a lifeline, I had no idea that what happened next would change everything. Not just for me, but for my entire family. Because sometimes, when you've lost everything, you find strength you never knew you had. The next morning, I woke up with swollen eyes and a strange sense of clarity. While my computer was gone, the flash drive Layla had given me contained something invaluable. Proof. Proof that these designs were mine. Proof of the hours I'd invested. Proof of my commitment to this path. I dressed quickly and headed to school earlier than usual. There was one person who might be able to help me. Mr. Ramirez, my digital arts teacher. He'd always believed in my work, even suggesting I apply for a youth design competition that was coming up. The competition I now had no way to prepare for. "Ariana?" Mr. Ramirez looked surprised to see me in his classroom at 7 a.m. "Everything okay?" I shook my head, fighting back fresh tears as I explained what had happened. I'm not sure what to say," he said finally. "That's a serious breach of trust." "I know," I said, clutching the flash drive. "And now I can't finish the commission work I promised, or prepare for the Nexus design competition you told me about. I'm just stuck." Mr. Ramirez thought for a moment. "You can use the lab computers during your free periods and after school. They're not as powerful as what you had, but they'll run the software." "Really?" A flicker of hope. "Really?" And he hesitated. "There's something else that might help. The competition has a scholarship component, $5,000 for the winner. It's meant for college tuition, but there's nothing saying you couldn't use it for equipment if you won." Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed. Because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you, $5,000. more than enough to rebuild my setup. But the competition was only 6 weeks away, and I was back at square one with limited access to equipment. "Thank you," I said sincerely. "I'll make it work somehow." For the next week, I lived in the computer lab. I arrived when the school opened, and left when the janitor kicked me out. I worked through lunch periods, free periods, and stayed late after classes ended. My portfolio was slowly coming back together, but the strain was taking its toll. I was exhausted all the time, barely sleeping, and falling behind in my other classes. At home, things were tense. Mom tried to act like everything was normal, making my favorite foods and asking about my day. Dad avoided me entirely. Layla was the only one who seemed to understand, offering to help however she could. But there wasn't much she could do. 10 days after my computer was sold, I came home to find a cardboard box on my bed. Inside was a laptop, not new, definitely refurbished, with a sticky note from Dad. "For your schoolwork." I booted it up and checked the specs. It was a basic model, adequate for essays and web browsing, but nowhere near powerful enough for the design software I needed. It couldn't even run the programs I used, let alone handle rendering. This was their solution? This was their idea of making things right? I left the laptop on my bed and went to find my father. He was in the garage, tinkering with his car, his pride and joy that he spent thousands maintaining. "Dad, this laptop can't run my software." He didn't look up. "It's what we could afford right now, Ariana." "What you could afford?" I couldn't hide my disbelief. "You got $3,800 for my PC less than 2 weeks ago." "That money is gone," he said firmly. "We had expenses." What expenses could possibly... And then I saw it, parked in the corner of the garage, a sleek electric bicycle with a bow on the handlebars. Brand new, top of the line. "Is that for Layla?" I asked, already knowing the answer. Dad had the decency to look uncomfortable. "She needs transportation around campus for her interviews. The campuses are huge, and it makes a good impression if she's not sweaty from walking when she arrives." I stared at him, speechless. They'd sold my computer, given me a fraction of the money, bought my sister designer clothes, and now an expensive e-bike, all in less than 2 weeks. "You know what?" I said finally. "Keep the laptop. I don't want anything from you anymore." I turned and walked away, ignoring his calls to come back and be reasonable. There was no reasoning with people who saw me as an afterthought in my own life. That night, I created a new email address and sent messages to all my clients explaining the situation, not the family drama, just that I had experienced an unexpected equipment failure and needed to temporarily work from school computers. Most were understanding, though I did lose 2 projects. The next day at school, I found myself staring at the Nexus design competition poster Mr. Ramirez had put up. The theme was transforming spaces. Contestants had to design a virtual environment that changed based on user interaction. It played perfectly to my strengths in environmental design and user experience. "You should do it," said a voice behind me. I turned to find Zach, a quiet guy from my digital arts class who rarely spoke to anyone. "I don't have the equipment," I said with a shrug. "I'm barely keeping up with my commission work using the school computers." "Use mine," he offered simply. "I've got a decent setup at home, not top of the line, but it can handle most rendering." "Jobs." I stared at him suspicious. "Why would you do that?" "Because you're good," he said matter-of-factly. "Like, really good. Everyone in class knows it. You should have a shot at that competition." And that's how I found myself at Zach's house after school, sitting at his gaming PC, which was indeed decent, if not quite as powerful as mine had been, working on competition designs while he did homework nearby or played games on his console. Became our routine, 4 days a week, 3 hours each day. His parents were cool about it, even ordering pizza for us on late nights. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe again. I had a chance, Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. 2 weeks before the competition deadline, my design was taking shape. An interactive forest environment that transformed based on user emotions, detected through simple inputs. When users were calm, the forest would be lush and peaceful. When anxious, storms would brew. When happy, flowers would bloom and butterflies would appear. It wasn't revolutionary, but it was polished and responsive. "This is incredible," Zach said, watching over my shoulder as I fine-tuned the emotional response algorithms. "You're definitely going to win." "Don't jinx it," I warned, but I was smiling. For the first time since my computer was sold, I felt like myself again. That evening, I arrived home later than usual. The house was quiet, but lights were on in the kitchen. I found my mother sitting at the table, staring at her laptop with a stricken expression. "Mom, what's wrong?" She looked up, startled. "Ariana, I didn't hear you come in." She quickly composed herself. "Nothing's wrong, just some bills." But something in her voice made me pause. I approached cautiously and glanced at her screen. It was our family bank account. The balance was alarmingly low. "What happened to all the money?" I asked, confused. Even with Layla's shopping spree and the e-bike, there should have been more. Mom closed the laptop. "It's nothing for you to worry about." "Is that why you sold my computer? Because we're having money problems?" "We're not having money problems," she said defensively. "Your father had some investments that didn't work out, that's all. It's temporary. It's temporary." The pieces suddenly clicked into place. Dad's bonus that never arrived. The urgency to sell my computer for cash. The way they'd been arguing in hushed tones when they thought no one was listening. "How bad is it?" I pressed. Mom sighed, her shoulders sagging. "Your father lost a lot in some cryptocurrency scheme. Almost all our savings. We've been trying to keep things normal until he sorts it out." I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. All this time, I'd thought they were favoring Layla at my expense. But the truth was almost worse. They were desperate and sinking, and I'd been collateral damage. "Why didn't you just tell me?" I asked. "Instead of making me feel like my things don't matter, like my future doesn't matter?" "Your father didn't want anyone to know. He was—" She hesitated. "Embarrassed. He's trying to fix it before it affects you girls." "Newsflash, Mom. It already affected me when you sold my computer without asking. And now you've spent all that money on Layla's clothes and a freaking electric bicycle?" Mom looked confused. "Electric bicycle? What are you talking about?" "The e-bike in the garage. For Layla's campus visits." Mom's expression changed from confusion to anger. "There's no e-bike in the garage." I led her there, flipping on the lights, to find an empty corner where the bike had been. It was right here, brand new, with a bow on it. Mom pulled out her phone and dialed Dad. When he answered, she put it on speaker. "Richard, did you buy Layla an electric bicycle?" A pause. "It was a good investment," he said defensively. "She needs it for getting around campuses, and it will save us money on transportation in the long run." "We can't afford any more investments right now," Mom snapped. "Where is it?" "I returned it," Dad admitted. "I realized it was a mistake. But we'll get it back later, when things improve." Mom ended the call without another word. The silence in the garage was deafening. "I'm sorry about your computer," she said finally. "It wasn't right, how we handled it. I was just scared." For the first time, I saw my mother as she really was. Not just a parent who made decisions I didn't like, but a frightened woman trying to hold things together while her husband made one bad decision after another. That night, I lay awake, thinking about families and secrets, about the stories we tell ourselves to justify our actions. Dad had sold my computer not to favor Layla, but because he was desperate after losing our savings. Mom had gone along with it out of fear. Layla had accepted expensive gifts, oblivious to their true cost. And me? I'd been so wrapped up in my own sense of victimhood that I'd missed the bigger picture. Our family was fracturing, and not just because of my computer. The next day, I made a decision. After school, instead of going to Zach's to work on my competition entry, I went to the bank. I withdrew the $200 my father had deposited, my portion of the computer sale. Then I went home and found my parents in the living room, arguing in hushed tones. "I have something to say," I announced. They looked up, startled. I placed the cash on the coffee table. "Use this to help pay the bills. It's not much, but it's something." "Ariana, no," Mom started to protest. "That's your money. We're family," I said firmly. "We help each other. But from now on, no more secrets. No more making decisions about my things without talking to me first. And no more pretending everything is fine when it isn't." Dad stared at the money, then at me. For the first time in weeks, he really looked at me. "I've made a mess of things," he admitted quietly. "I was trying to protect everyone, but I've just made it worse." "Then let's fix it," I said. "Together, starting with honesty." That evening, my parents called a family meeting. Dad explained everything to Layla: the failed investments, the financial strain, the real reason my computer had been sold. Layla was shocked, then angry that she'd been kept in the dark, then determined to help. "I can defer college for a year," she offered. "Work and save money." "Absolutely not," Mom said firmly. "You've worked too hard for this opportunity." "Maybe I can get a scholarship," Layla suggested, "or more financial aid." As they discussed options, I thought about the design competition. $5,000 wouldn't solve all our problems, but it would be a start. Enough to rebuild my computer and maybe help with some bills. "I might be able to help too," I said carefully. "There's this competition." And as I explained about the Nexus design competition, watching my family's expressions shift from confusion to understanding to hope, I realized something important. The computer had been mine, but this journey, the pain, the growth, the determination it had sparked, this was transforming me in ways I couldn't have predicted. Sometimes, when you lose something valuable, you gain something even more precious: clarity about what truly matters. For me, that meant standing up for myself while still caring about my family. It meant pursuing my passion even when obstacles seemed insurmountable. As we talked late into the night, making plans and promises, I knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy. But for the first time since finding my empty desk, I felt like we might find our way through this, not as perfect parents and obedient daughters playing assigned roles, but as four imperfect people trying our best to support each other. And whatever happened with the competition, I'd already won something more valuable: my voice. No one would silence it again, not even family. The day of the Nexus design competition arrived with a mixture of excitement and dread. I'd spent every available moment at Zach's house, refining my interactive forest environment until it responded almost intuitively to emotional inputs. He'd been an unexpected ally through it all, offering technical suggestions and moral support in equal measure. "Ready for this?" he asked, as we set up my presentation in the convention center where the competition was being held. 20 finalists from schools across the state had been selected to present their designs live to the judges, professional game designers and tech industry leaders. "As ready as I'll ever be," I replied, checking the USB drive containing my project for the 100th time. All my work, all my hopes, contained in something smaller than my thumb. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. To my surprise, my entire family had shown up for the event. Mom and Dad sat awkwardly in the audience, dressed in their Sunday best as if attending a formal ceremony rather than a tech competition. Layla sat between them, shooting me encouraging smiles whenever our eyes met. Things at home had been different since our family meeting. Not perfect, but honest. Dad had taken on extra consulting work and sold his beloved car for a more economical model. Mom had started applying for part-time jobs after 15 years as a stay-at-home parent. Layla had secured a partial scholarship to MIT and was taking on student loans for the rest. And me? I'd learned to work with what I had, rather than what I'd lost. The school computers, Zach's gaming PC, even the basic laptop Dad had given me. I'd cobbled together a workflow that allowed me to complete my commission work and prepare for the competition. It wasn't ideal, but it had taught me adaptability, a skill no high-end PC could provide. Contestant number 15, Ariana Patel, called the announcer. I took a deep breath and approached the stage. The audience was a blur of faces as I connected my drive to the presentation computer and launched my environment. The large screens around the auditorium came to life with my creation, a lush, vibrant forest that seemed to breathe with a life of its own. My project is called Emotional Ecosystem, I began, my voice steadier than I expected. It's an interactive environment that responds to the user's emotional state. I demonstrated how the system worked, using a simple input device that measured heart rate and skin conductivity as proxies for emotional states. As I deliberately calmed my breathing, the forest on screen became more serene. Leaves swaying, gently, soft light filtering through the canopy. When I thought about the stress of recent weeks, storm clouds gathered and the trees bent in a virtual wind. Environments affect our emotions, but our emotions can also affect our environments, I explained. This reciprocal relationship is at the heart of my design philosophy. For the finale, I invited one of the judges to try the interface. A game designer from a major studio stepped forward, curious but skeptical. As she placed her hand on the sensor, the forest responded to her, creating a unique environment that reflected her emotional state. Her skepticism gave way to genuine surprise as butterflies appeared when she smiled. The applications for this technology extend beyond gaming, I concluded. From therapeutic spaces for anxiety management to interactive art installations, Emotional Ecosystem demonstrates how virtual environments can connect with us on a deeply human level. The applause was encouraging, though not overwhelming. I knew my technical execution wasn't as polished as it could have been with my original equipment. Some transitions were choppy, and the emotional reading algorithm wasn't as sensitive as I'd planned. But I'd done my best with the resources available. As I stepped off the stage, Zach gave me a thumbs up from the sidelines. My family approached, during the break between presentations. "That was incredible, sweetheart," Mom said, hugging me. "I had no idea you could create something so alive." Dad stood awkwardly to the side. "It was impressive," he offered, which from him was high praise. "Very professional." Layla was more effusive. "You're totally going to win. That forest thing was amazing. I could actually feel it responding." Their support meant more than I expected. For years, I'd felt like the forgotten child, the one whose interests were merely tolerated rather than celebrated. Now, seeing the genuine admiration in their eyes, something shifted inside me. Whether I won or not, they finally saw my passion as legitimate, not just a hobby, but a viable path. After all the presentations, the judges retired to deliberate. The convention center buzzed with nervous energy as competitors and families mingled, discussing the various projects and speculating on the outcome. "Your forest design was easily the most intuitive," said a girl whose AR dancing game had drawn cheers from the audience. The emotional connection was really unique. "Thanks," I said sincerely. "Your motion tracking was incredible. How did you get it so responsive?" As we traded technical talk, I spotted someone approaching from the corner of my eye. A tall woman in a sleek blazer with a company logo I recognized immediately. Verdant Studios, one of the leading environmental design firms in the gaming industry. Ariana Patel? She asked, extending her hand. I'm Maya Gonzalez, creative director at Verdant. Do you have a moment to chat? My heart raced as I excused myself from the conversation. Verdant Studios. They'd created the environmental design for some of my favorite games. Your emotional ecosystem project caught my attention, Maya said as we found a quiet corner. The emotional responsiveness is something we've been exploring at Verdant for our next generation of games. Really? That's amazing, I managed, trying not to sound too starstruck. We have a summer internship program for promising designers, she continued, handing me a business card. It's competitive, but based on what I saw today, I'd encourage you to apply. The deadline is next month. An internship at Verdant would be a dream come true, better even than winning the competition. It would mean real-world experience, connections in the industry, and a foot in the door of the career I'd been working toward. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Thank you so much, I said, clutching the card. I'll definitely apply. One more thing, Maya added. The internship is paid, and there's housing assistance for those who need it. She smiled knowingly. We understand that not everyone has equal access to resources in this industry. As she walked away, I stood in stunned silence. A paid internship, housing assistance, a chance to work with professionals who understood the challenges of breaking into the industry. The announcement that the judges had reached their decision interrupted my thoughts. We all gathered around the main stage as the results were announced. Third place went to a virtual reality architectural tour. Second place to an interactive music composition environment. And first place, with a scholarship award of $5,000, goes to... I held my breath, aware of my family tensing beside me. Raj Sharma, for Quantum Playground. The audience erupted in applause as a shy young man made his way to the stage to accept the oversized check and trophy. His quantum physics educational game had been brilliant, complex concepts made accessible through clever game mechanics. I felt a pang of disappointment, but also genuine admiration. His project had deserved to win, and we have a special announcement, continued the MC. Our industry partner TechWave Solutions was so impressed with this year's entries that they've decided to award an additional runner-up scholarship of $2,500 to Ariana Patel for Emotional Ecosystem. The surprise hit me like a wave. $2,500. Not the full amount I'd hoped for, but enough to rebuild a decent computer setup. Enough to apply for the Verdant internship with the proper tools. As I accepted the smaller check and certificate, I caught sight of my family in the audience. Mom was wiping away tears. Dad was actually smiling. A rare sight these past few weeks. Layla was jumping up and down, ignoring the annoyed looks from people around her. The aftermath of the competition was a blur of congratulations, photos, and networking. Several students exchanged information with me, forming the beginnings of a professional network I hadn't realized I needed. Zach hovered nearby, clearly proud but trying not to show it too much. When we finally left the convention center, my family insisted on a celebration dinner despite our financial situation. This is a special occasion, Dad declared. We can tighten our belts tomorrow. Over pasta at a modestly priced Italian restaurant, something remarkable happened. We talked. Really talked, without the tension and secrets that had defined our interactions for weeks. I've been thinking, Dad said hesitantly, about what you said regarding respect and your property. You were right, and I was wrong. We should never have sold your computer without discussing it with you first. Even in a financial emergency, Mom added, there were other ways we could have handled it. And I should have asked where the money for my clothes came from, Layla admitted. I just assumed. Assumed. We all made mistakes, I said, surprising myself with the forgiveness in my voice. But look where we are now. I told them about the Verdant internship opportunity, explaining what it could mean for my future. To my surprise, Dad nodded approvingly. That sounds like a valuable opportunity, he said. Professional experience is important in any field. Any field, not just real careers like medicine or law. It was a small acknowledgement, but it meant everything. So what's your plan for the runner-up? Money? Mom asked. First, I need to rebuild my computer setup, I explained. Not as high-end as before, but something that can handle the software I need. After that, maybe save the rest toward college. Dad cleared his throat. I've been setting aside money from my extra consulting work. It's not much yet, but I want to contribute to your new computer fund. To make amends. We're also selling some things we don't need, Mom added, including my old jewelry that just sits in a drawer. That should help too. And I got a job, Layla announced proudly. The campus bookstore at MIT. It won't make me rich, but it means I won't need to ask for spending money next year. I looked around at my family. Imperfect, struggling, but trying. The betrayal of having my computer sold without permission would always be a painful memory, but it had catalyzed changes none of us could have predicted. 2 months later, I sat at my new desk, admiring my newly built PC. It wasn't quite as powerful as my original dream machine, but it was more than adequate for my needs. The components had been carefully selected with my runner-up money, contributions from my parents, and even a surprise gift card from Zach's family for all the pizza you didn't eat while using our electricity. My first task on the new computer was completing my application for the Verdant Studios internship. As I attached my portfolio, including emotional ecosystem with additional features I'd been able to implement on my new machine, I reflected on how much had changed. Dad was slowly rebuilding our family finances through extra work and more careful budgeting. Mom had found a part-time job at a local gallery that utilized her art history degree. Layla had left for MIT with a mixture of scholarships, loans, and part-time work to make it happen. No electric bicycle in sight. And me? I'd learned that material possessions, even ones that represent years of work and sacrifice, can be replaced. But self-respect and honest relationships are harder to rebuild once broken. The day my acceptance letter from Verdant Studios arrived was the day I truly understood that losing my computer had given me something valuable in return. A stronger sense of who I was and what I could overcome. The paid internship would not only provide professional experience, but would also help me contribute to our family's financial recovery. That evening, as I showed my family the acceptance email, my father said something I never expected to hear. I'm proud of you, Ariana, he said quietly. Not just for this opportunity, but for how you handled everything these past few months. You showed more maturity than I did. Coming from my father, those words were worth more than any computer could ever be. As I prepared to leave for my internship next month, I realized that what seemed like an ending, the loss of my dream PC, was actually a beginning. A beginning of honest conversations, of mutual respect, of being seen for who I am rather than who my parents expected me to be. Sometimes, the things we lose open doors to experiences and growth we never imagined possible. My $3,800 dream computer is gone, but in its place, I found something far more valuable: my voice, my strength, and a future built on respect rather than resentment. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.